and we are going to go live.
All right. Oh, I need to do my watch party too. All right. Are we live?
We are almost there.
Okay. I'm going to talk. Have you been to Mike's pound classes?
I haven't, mainly because my physical body has a lot of struggles right now. I'm doing physical therapy for my shoulders. So I'm trying to be really, really careful that I don't overdo it. And I know me. All right. I'm going to title this Adventures of Jen and Jen, episode 1. And I'm pushing the go live button.
Are we officially live on Facebook?
We are officially live on Facebook.
Awesome.
Welcome,
Well,
everybody.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in for the Adventures of Jen and Jen. So we can share kind of how this got started as I'm starting my watch party for my Facebook friends. I'm going to share this right now for anyone who wants to join on my Facebook. Great. Yeah, so this kind of got started with Jen and I both shared some presentations over in the music therapy leaders page. And right at the start of my presentation, somebody had made a comment about having the second extroverted Jen of the day, as I got to follow this lovely lady in terms of presenting stuff. And so from there, we kind of started talking about the extroverted Jens. And so I reached out to Jen and said, hey, we should do something together. And she started creating ideas in terms of, having a Facebook Live and doing this type of things. And we started meeting and just realized how much time that we enjoy just spending together and how this fills both of our cups. And so here we are as the Adventures of Jen and Jen. So anybody know Adventures of Pete and Pete? We've got the Adventures of Jen and Jen. So here we are. So
And we are grateful to be with you all today, whether you are an extrovert or an introvert or an ambivert, or just because you would like to connect with us. Jen and I have realized how important these meaningful connections are for us, even in planning this and putting this together and in sharing this with you, and hope that it can be maybe a little bit of a push to create some other meaningful engagements and interactions in your life that will help to fill your cup, that will help to support you. And Jen and I presented a lot of what we talked about was being mindful of what we need during this challenging time and really caring for ourselves and integrating that in our lives. I talked about that through self-care. Jen talked about that in a beautiful way about creating harmony in our different roles and the different parts of our life right now. And a big piece of that is self-awareness, knowing ourselves. And I know for me, I know that being an extrovert, I get my energy from meaningful connections with others. I need that. That is really important to me. And I don't know about you, and maybe you can add this in the comments if you want. Where do you get your energy? What motivates you? What keeps you going? What is that? What fills you up right now? Jen, how would you answer that for you?
For me, I have to kind of elaborate on what you said, like meaningful connections is probably the biggest thing that fills me up right now. And so I really have to take that time and really feel what is meaningful connection. And so for me, I think that's the biggest thing that fills me up. And so that comes from, big meaningful connections for me is just even reaching out to my friends and having conversations with my friends. And so trying to make a point to reach out to my friends a little bit more frequently, and just even connecting with a new friend by just sending a message and saying, hey, how are you? And then also really diving deeper with my friends that I do see or talk to on a more regular basis. And so getting to connect with them playing board games online or doing other things has really been something that's been very meaningful for me in this time, is keeping those connections. And I know you and I had talked about too, that as extroverts, it's kind of,
I don't want to say it's on us, but I think it is something that is easier for us to reach out to our friends. And so I really try to be mindful. And I've had even some of my friends that are introverted have made comments before that have said, that they like the fact that I make our friendship easy by doing. So I know, Jen, when we've been talking, you've been sharing so much about your family Zooms. Can you tell? I would love to hear about those again. And I know our listeners would love to hear about it too.
Absolutely. And it's that piece of intentionality that Jen was talking about, of not being afraid to reach out and really knowing what a valuable gift that can be in our relationships. And it was something I learned from a mentor a long time ago when I was transitioning between jobs and realizing that not all of the colleague relationships that I'd had would be coming with me, and realizing that I could be intentional about who are those people I want to stay connected with. And so that's
Sure.
been really important to me during this time. And one of the ways is with my family. Family is incredibly important to me. I love being an auntie. It's one of my favorite jobs. And I'm close to my sisters and my parents. And so we have a daily Zoom call. And literally every day after school, my sister Steph is an awesome 5th grade teacher. And so we do this at 4 o'clock at the end of our day, just like we used to as kids when we'd gather around and have little Debbies. We all bring our, did you ever have little Debbies as a kid?
Yes,
or as an adult?
I love it. Oh yeah, all the time as an adult too.
So we bring our snacks. My 4-year-old niece always has a peanut butter sandwich with honey. Steph is usually eating toast. I will almost always have my tea. We'll bring our snacks, whatever they are. We check in. We do puzzles together. On Wednesdays, my niece, who is 16 and a half, and I do Debbie Allen's live Instagram dance class together. And yesterday actually was a highlight. We actually wrote family theme songs.
Oh,
and so,
I love it.
So,
love that.
So we now have 3 different family theme songs for the Fam Jam, as we call it. And we have one for the opening, one for the closing, and then one for the awkward moments of silence that sometimes happen when you're on a Zoom call with people. And it's been awesome. I've already completed one whole puzzle during the Fam Jams, and it's just been, it's that place, having those, again, those people that we can trust to be ourselves with, right? So we can share the tough stuff, we can laugh, we can congratulate each other on the little wins. We're getting to share generations of information. We play the expert game, and my dad got to be the expert on outhouses, which he actually is. I've been the expert on cardigans, in case you don't know me. That's one of my strengths. But just, those pieces of sharing our lives, sharing the things that are important to us, has been really, really meaningful for all of us. And even if it's just being able to hop on for a few minutes, I know it's something that each of us looks forward to. What are some of those other ways you're doing this in your personal life, Jen?
So some of our comments, we got somebody, Sarah Maxwell tells us that she does some exercising on Skype, which made me think about some of my exercising that I've been doing. So there's a music therapist out in Minnesota, Mike, I'm going to butcher his last name. Help me out, Jen.
He's watching right now, so we'll get it right. Mike Limbiblu is with us. Hey, Mike, we love you.
I have been loving his pound, and somehow I ended up into some of the Minnesota stuff, where I came and got to watch all kinds of pound teachers in Minnesota, which was amazing. And so now I'm like connected with some other pound instructors in Minnesota. I'm like the Indiana groupie in Minnesota. So
we will take you.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I am loving my Minnesota group, being a groupie of the Minnesota. But I've been really enjoying that. And it's my first introduction to pound. So what a great time in this, this global crisis and this crisis time to be introduced to something new that has become so meaningful for me, and something that I even was like, I could do this. I could become a pound instructor, and I could, do pound more often and all this other stuff. And then the crazy entrepreneur in me just keeps going. And so, but I've really enjoyed it. And I'm really looking forward to his class tonight. I'm looking forward to his class on Saturday. And this year, one of my biggest goals was to kind of lose weight and to not kind of lose weight, to lose weight, and to become a little bit more healthy in terms of like eating and consistent exercise and stuff. And so it really helped me to be able to kind of reconnect with my 2020 goal, because I didn't meet my weight loss goal in March, and I just finally met my March goal like a couple days ago. And so I've been having to give myself a little bit of grace of that. And so it's been really helpful to do that. And it's awesome because there's other colleagues there. And so there's music therapists from all over the country that are going to his classes. And so it's this great time of getting to connect in that personal and professional way. But
and Mike, feel free to add the link.
Then I have to nerd out just a little bit, Jen, because I know that you share this nerd love with me of your love for board games. So I have a friend.
And before you go there, Jen, I'm going to pause you right there for just a second. Since Mike is watching, Mike, go ahead and put that link in our comments if you want to have people be able to join you for the pound classes you're doing. By all means, use this as a platform to share that. And I just want to note, Jen, because I think it's important too, the way that we can embrace being an extrovert and connect that with those other goals. So like when you're looking at trying to be healthier, whether that's with exercise or eating, when we can do it in a way that also involves that meaningful connection with other people, that can really increase, right, our success with it, increase our motivation with it. For me, it's those dance classes on Wednesday, right? Actually doing that. Oh, no worries, Mike. We were just rocking and talking about your pound class. So pop the link in there if you'd like. He just said he was doing daddy duty for a moment, but he's back now. But yeah, I think that's just such a beautiful example of really combining what gives us energy, this connection with others, with our other goals and with our other self-care goals too. So I just wanted to highlight that. Talk about board games, because I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but I mean, just to even continue with what you were just saying, for me, it's been good because there's a day and a time. And so like before Mike invited me to his class, I was kind of open-endedly doing like Zumba videos on YouTube. And it was like, oh, well, I'll do it here, or I'll do it here. And it wasn't as meaningful, even though I tried to do it in the middle of my day so I could have like a pick-me-up, in the middle of the day. And it wasn't until he like scheduled these classes and then I saw the other classes and things like that, and I'm committed to being there. So I'm telling someone I'm going to be there. And for me, when I tell someone I'm going to do something, I do it. And so it's kind of added this extra level of being able to kind of do that. And it's created new connections, because right after the class, I got to talk to Beth, who I know Beth is joining us today too. Yay. So I talked to Beth and I engaged with Sharon Boyle online, and there was, extra love. I do too. And so there was extra level of engagement that happened afterwards that really filled my extroverted cup, that it was like, I knew that they were there. And so I got to share that with other people. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So my board game thing that I've been doing is I have a really good friend that I've been able to share my screen on, or like share on Zoom. And so I tilt my computer down to where he's able to see our board game. And we are, we're playing cooperative games. So we've played Mansions of Madness, which I know you know. And I just bought one of the Pandemic. And so I got the
timely.
Yep, exactly, right? Perfect. I knew I wanted it, and so I couldn't find the regular Pandemic, so I ended up getting the Iberia one. And so so I've been able to like share my screen, or like not even share my screen, but been able to like tilt the computer down to where he's able to see the board. And then I just move both of our pieces and do all of it, and that we strategize together about what we want to do. And it has been probably the one of the most fun things that I've done through the pandemic, in terms of like getting to fill my cup, because I love board games. And I think one of the biggest reasons I love board games is it brings people together. And so It's extremely social. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I like board games and like cards versus like video games online, because it's not the same. But it's been really filling that cup for me.
Yes. And so those meaningful connections and the hobbies that we love and the other things that fill us up and motivate us and keep us going. I had a couple of recommendations given in another group I was a part of this week, and I haven't tried these out yet, but if you also love games and you're looking for ways to do those with your family and your friends, there is, of course, the way that you can share your screen on Zoom and have a whiteboard, and that's awesome. I've also had some of my friends share that there's a house party app. And also cool. Jackboxgames.com.
I just bought Jackbox.
Did you? Have you tried it yet?
Yep, I played it over the weekend with a bunch of college friends, and I'm setting up a new one for this Friday too. So I've been trying to play Friday nights with Jackbox games, and so Jackbox is super easy. It's like word games, truth and lies, trivia. I would be happy to host one for some music therapists. Maybe we could get like a music
Ooh,
therapist game night with Jackbox,
I'm
and so
totally in.
let's do it. So basically, I just share my screen and everybody can engage with it from their phones. And so it's perfect for this setting. So we do have some comments on my end. So Sarah Maxwell says that she and her son play Pandemic. And then Beth asked me if I like the Iberia, and I do.
Ooh.
I've only played the original Pandemic version one time. And so I don't have much to compare it to, but I love the gameplay for Iberia, and I think it works out well.
Nice. And my friend Michael just commented too that he loves Jackbox as well. And Mike Limbiblu is popping in the links. So those of you who are now intrigued by Pound, you've got the opportunity to check that out and join Jen. I've been doing my physical therapy for my shoulders every day, Mike. So I'm getting strong enough to hopefully be able to join you one of these days soon.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't think I've ever had a thigh workout the way that I do in Pound. And so like I've never ever had that much of a thigh workout. And so it's great. I love it. It's like strength building. It's got some ab stuff in it with some great cardio. And so I'm like all for it. I love it. So
nice. I'm getting some more comments here too. Actually, my niece has done Jackbox with her youth group. And so that's one too. Sarah Stoneback. Yay, Sarah. Hi to the triplets. Is also looking forward to trying that. So again, if you're just joining us, we're really embracing our extrovert side here today, and that desire we have to make meaningful connections, and talking about ways that we can really maximize this during this time and connect it with the things that we love, with our hobbies, with the people who are important to us, with our other self-care goals like working out, all of these different things. If you have ideas, please feel free to drop them in the comments, either on my page or on Jen's watch party. And we're sharing those as we go along too. Oh, yay. And Sarah does Pound too. Okay. Sarah and Mike, do you know each other? Because if you don't, you should. Just saying. So we're going to connect right here, right now.
So Sarah on my page asked about Jackbox, if there's a kid version. So when I've been playing Jackbox, I have seen a way that you can click a kids version on it. I have not played the kids version, as my kids are 4 and 2, so they probably aren't going to play Jackbox regardless. But I think it's referred to as family friendly, and so, or something along those lines. And so I would imagine that that's a little bit more age appropriate for kiddos. And so I think it would be a great way for families. So maybe, Jen, that's something you and your family can do. But Jackbox is doing a discount right now on the computer version. And so I got it for like half off. And so I got, I think it came with 10 games all in all. And it was like, I think I ended up paying like between $20 and $30. So it's pretty affordable in terms for what you get.
You've already heard Jen and I talk a little bit too about creating some of these connections with other music therapists. And before we went live today, we were talking about how for us, a piece of the harmony is that often our personal and professional overlap. And one of the intentional connections that's been important to me is I have a couple of colleagues, a dance movement therapist and a yoga teacher that I have normally in my usual schedule pre-COVID-19 have off-contract time with every Friday. And we always love that time together. And so we, again, have been intentionally creating those get-togethers every couple of weeks or so, and really needing those. And one of the pieces Jen talked about earlier, if you're just joining us, is that sometimes it takes us, the extrovert, to reach out and make those happen. And so that has been my role. They're both introverts, and they really value that. And so not being afraid to make those meaningful connections, to reach out to the people who are important to you right now, and to find ways to connect, to get together in ways that are important to you.
Yeah.
And I just have to laugh. My friend Michael said, meaningful connections. I find meaning doing the eye nod at the grocery store to the people shopping with me. You take what you can get.
Absolutely. It's so true. And he's absolutely right though, too. Like the nods and being able to just and that kind of brings up, another point that Jen and I had talked about being, aware of our needs too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, physical touch versus, Jen and I have talked a lot about love languages. And one of the things in my life journey through I'm recently divorced is I learned that my love languages kind of shifted and changed from when I was married to when I'm single, and what I, feel like my needs are as a single mom, what I feel like my needs are. And then even now in this, this crisis, I feel like my needs have shifted and stuff in terms of what I need from the relationships around me and like my friendships, and like how I need that to be kind of filled. And so I think it's really important too, as we're not having that physical contact with people, to figure out ways, even that head nod, that smiling and things like that, because people all around us are lacking that, because we're not made to not have those hugs. We're not made to not have that physical connection. And so finding the ways that we can do that even with strangers. And so I love that comment. I don't know if you meant it as serious as I just took it, but
knowing him, it can go both ways. So I would say go for it. Yeah. And it's, I have some of my extrovert friends who are alone during COVID-19. And so being able, right. And so don't be surprised if you have those needs that are showing up, that you need more of the physical touch, whether that's, some of I love butterfly breaths, partially because it's like giving yourself a hug while you do it.
I love that. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, they're great ones. And then it's from EMDR, from my therapist. Big fan of having your own therapist, by the way.
Me too.
But just finding those ways, pets for people, weighted blankets, all of these different pieces, because our needs are going to change and evolve, and being aware of that, and being aware that different people are going to have different needs. The Enneagram is one of my personal inventories that's been important for me, and understanding how that is manifesting right now, and noticing when I am needing to be more mindful of caring for myself. And I know for me as an extrovert, one of the signs for me is when I start to isolate. And Jen and I have talked about this, that I know if I'm like feeling the need to isolate, sometimes that's a healthy need, that I need alone time too. Sometimes though, it means that I'm starting to pull away, and that I might need to take that extra step to reach out to stay healthy. And also the other piece I'd add is, as we're thinking just about being mindful of our needs, is being mindful that the others, if you are cohabitating with others during this time, that their needs might be different than yours. Just because you're feeling your need for something going up, theirs might not be. And, I'm an extrovert cohabitating with an introvert during this time. And so it's really important that we both honor what the other needs, and that we give each other space, and that we listen to each other and communicate well. So being able to know ourselves, to know our needs, and also be able to share those with each other is, I think, really important. And to be able to ask that, whether that's someone you're living with, or whether that's a friend or a counselor or a supervisor or whatever it is, to be able to express those needs too is incredibly important. Jen, anything else on that?
No, I feel like you really covered that and stuff too. And I agree. And I think even for somebody who, I'm not living with a significant other, that, I really try to be aware of the needs of my friends and the people around me. And also really, being aware of everyone's struggle through this. Everyone's struggle is different. And so, as I've had friends that have, lost their jobs or don't have income, their needs are going to be different than those of us that are, essential workers and having to go to work, or small business owners and things like that. I think everyone's needs are so different. And so even when we are checking in with our friends, I try to be really mindful of how I'm checking in, because of what their situations are. And so I think that this is a time right now that we really need to be presenting with a lot of extra grace and a lot of extra sensitivity. Yes. And then also just realizing that everything kind of, that the way that we need to connect is different than the way that we connected before. Just because of that sensitivity, that giving each other grace, and realizing that, some of us are living in grief right now, and not coping the same way. And so, one of the things that for me that, and this is something I've had to really work on my productivity, because I'm in a situation where I need to be working. I've got employees who are relying on the business for their income, and we've had to shift from, from in-person sessions to teleservices. And so for me, I've had to really be mindful of that, but not everybody is in a situation where they need to be working on productivity. Not everyone is in a situation where they have things that they have to be doing. And so realizing that all of our friends and all of the people around us, even extroverts and introverts, we all have a different, I don't necessarily want to say goal, but we all have a different way of being currently.
Yes. And honoring that. Yeah. Some of you know my motto during this time has been grief, gratitude, grace.
Love
Occasionally I add
it.
in the fourth one, which is grump ass, but thankfully I haven't had to add that one in too often. I maybe should have warned before I swore.
The 4Gs.
The 4Gs.
I like
but
it.
seriously,
The
right?
4Gs.
Many of us are holding a lot of grief right now for a variety of things, and people and jobs and loved ones and also and hopes and dreams, and whether that's a graduation day or a person or a job. I love how Rochelle Morgan talks about it. It's not the, what does she say? It's not the loss Olympics or grief Olympics, or we're not trying to win here, right? Being able to hold that space for wherever you're at. And I think a big part of that you talk a lot about, Jen, and I really appreciate, is within that having boundaries for ourselves too. That just because I get my energy from meaningful connection does not mean that I'm going to go and hit that brick wall. We need to be really mindful of those boundaries. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I feel like go brick wall used to be like the syndrome I lived in. And so, and I actually used to refer to it as go brick wall syndrome. And that's the life I lived for so long, where I just like kept giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, that I finally would. And I've talked several times about the fact that when I first started my career, I felt like that my career was part of self-care. God, I was so wrong. But I loved what I did so much that it made it feel like that it was a part of taking care of myself, that I had this passion-filled career. And don't get me wrong, I still am very, very passionate about what I do and I love it. But I also understand that it's not necessarily a part of filling my cup, that it's a part of, what I do for life, but it's not necessarily how I'm engaging in self-care. So actually in the last couple of years, I've done a lot of work on boundaries and setting boundaries and being aware of my own needs. And, the other thing that I've read a book called The Happiness Trap that talks about that we live this world that everything has a happy ending. Movies have happy endings, and everything has this, like, everything has to feel happy. And I also had that syndrome where I didn't like to show, my emotions, and I didn't like to show, what I was. And it was, kind of like what you talked about, where, if you're isolating, that's a sign for you. It's also a sign for me as well, in some sense. But I also I don't really like to show that part of me. I don't like to show that vulnerable side. So I've been trying to do that a little bit more. And trying to open myself up to the people that make me feel safe, and the people that I feel like I can be truly vulnerable with and be truly, show my needs and stuff, and not to get into that happiness trap, but then also too, to really set boundaries in terms of relationships and stuff. And so I've done a ton of work on boundaries, and sometimes boundaries mean saying no to something. And, the big underlying thing that I think you and I have talked about is that meaningful connection. And so realizing that every connection and everything that I do isn't necessarily meaningful. And that means that sometimes I don't necessarily get fulfillment out of sitting in board meetings all day long. Even though I'm with a group of people and I enjoy being around those people, it doesn't necessarily fill my cup. And so realizing what I can do, what I can't, and how that comes. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. We were talking earlier that we've realized, and I think it's important for us, even as extroverts, not every encounter is going to increase our energy. It's those meaningful encounters. It's those meaningful connections. And there are a lot of relationships, and I don't know about all y'all listening right now, that are draining of energy, even for extroverts. And so I think it's really important to be mindful of what engagements, what connections you have that fill your cup, which ones drain you, and be able to work within that again, and being mindful of what works for us. And Sarah had a great question. She asked, do you have any good methods in processing and being more mindful of what you might need, or how to accommodate those constant changes? And I know for me, part of that is building into my daily routine a mindfulness practice. And it's just something that I've had to
Mhm.
practice and practice over time. It's why I love using that word practice with mindfulness techniques, that it's not something we ever get perfectly. No one is ever mindful all the time. And it's something, you know, I start every day with meditation and prayer. That's how I start my days. It means that I have breath work that I do. It means that I have moments and cues throughout my days when I pause to breathe and check in with myself, that I've built into my routine over time so that I can be mindful. It also means, and part of why I've loved the Enneagram and some of the information that we've talked about with the love languages and all these different personality inventories, is knowing ourselves and then knowing when we see a certain part of our personality start to come up, or when we see something like I was talking about the isolating, of being able to go, ooh, I may need to check in with myself. It doesn't mean it's unhealthy, but it might be a good point for me to check in and just make sure that I'm doing okay. What do you do to be mindful, especially
Yeah.
during this time of change?
So I was actually just thinking about the fact that, the last couple of days I've had just some hard personal things going on.
Mhm.
And last night I found myself like really needing to just sit with my gratitude journal,
Yeah.
and really go through all of the things that like I was grateful for in the last couple of days. And honestly, if I hadn't done that, I'm not sure that I could have, 100% been emotionally present in even this interaction with Jen, because I had so many emotions coming and going and stuff. As I've just got some personal things as I have a family member kind of heading towards end of life right now, and it's been very challenging. But I was able to just sit really in the gratitude of what I felt in the last few days, and the gratitude that I feel about embracing my family and being able to be with some of my family, and the gratitude and the joys that I felt being able to spend the last 34 years with this individual. And so it has really helped me, just to be able to kind of still be gracious and have that. And so for me, the big things that I think have helped me in this change is holding strong on gratitude. And I love when Jen talks about that, still being able to have gratitude in grief.
Yeah.
And that has been something that like I have taken from Jen and have just really, really loved and embraced, because I think, sometimes too, when we think about gratitude, it's that shift of always having to be happy with gratitude. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can have gratitude. Yeah.
It's the most powerful word my therapist taught me a long, long time ago, is the power of and.
Sure.
And for me,
Yeah.
it's why I prefer, it's why my business is Joyful Noises, and why I prefer joy to happiness, because happiness is conditional.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And joy isn't. Joy is something that we can hold within us. And for me, and as Jen was talking, gratitude is a huge practice. It's a daily practice for me. It's something that I've really worked to integrate and live out in my life. And I know, Jen, that you have too. And so for me, being able to hold that gratitude is one of the places that my joy comes from. For me, if you look at my core values, on my personal side, gratitude and faith are the two things that keep me feeling joy in the midst of the grief and the struggle and the changes. And it doesn't mean that it's not hard. And it doesn't mean that I don't have grump ass days or sad days. We have a peer supervision group, thanks to Rochelle Morgan. Shout out to our MT Insider friends. Amy Thompson Stanbridge is on right now with us.
Yeah.
And yay. We have a peer supervision group that meets once a week. And one of the sessions a couple of weeks ago, I just cried the whole thing. And it was a day when the grief, there was a lot of grief. I still had a lot of gratitude. They were both still there. The grief was just more prevalent, and being able to hold the space for that. And again, because I know I need the meaningful connections to express it, I've been holding that a lot in. As an extrovert, I need to be able to share it. And so to have people that you trust, that you can go to when you need to express all the emotions right now, is incredibly important. And I'm grateful for that community that we have. Amy also helped me out. It's the Hardship Olympics. So don't feel the need to play in the Hardship Olympics. That's not happening. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And many of us in that peer supervision group have had a big cry. So we need groups that allow us, and we need, like Jen said, to have places that we can be vulnerable. And to have boundaries around who those people are. That doesn't mean that we share that with everybody, about knowing who that group is that we can trust to have those meaningful connections with, and to share this time, and to really embrace what that means to be an extrovert, and what that means about knowing who we are. And those of you who are introverts or ambiverts watching, or however, again, this goes back to whether you're looking at your love languages or your Enneagram or your Myers-Briggs or your birth order. I know my sisters are on here, and I am the oldest. One of them may have referred to me as bossy at one point. I call that being a leader. Uh, but again, knowing
Shifting
ourselves,
words.
shifting, reframing, love that. Or as I told, I have a niece who's a
Love
lot
it.
like me, and we talk about it like our superhero capes, right? We all have these parts of our personality that can be our strengths, and they can also be our challenges. And so we know that right now, if you're an extrovert, that there's a lot of ways that we can embrace it. We also know that it can be really challenging right now. And so if you're feeling that struggle, know that you're not alone. And we hope that by doing this, we can provide some ideas and some space so that you can also embrace it and use the powers that you have as an extrovert to help meet some of those needs that you have right now.
It's so true. Yeah. I, so kind of going back a little bit into gratitudes, I feel like for me, gratitude wasn't something that I practiced very mindfully until like maybe in the last year. And I actually talk about a lot that I think gratitude and being very mindful of the things that I was grateful for. And I picked up a gratitude journal that actually has like specific prompts about, like some of the prompts will be like take a walk and notice things in your neighborhood that you've never noticed before and really become grateful for those things. And so I really think that, that gratitude has really changed and shifted me as an individual. That has just made me more positive and more able to, kind of enjoy life a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. And we are grateful for all y'all joining us. I know we've kind of hit that half-hour mark. Jen, anything last that you would like to cover during this time together today? As we said, this is our episode 1, just trying this out. Feel free to use the comments to let us know what's helpful for you. We're hoping to do this again. And so when we do, what else do you want us to address? What do you want us to cover? Maybe are there areas you want us to go more in depth into? We love this opportunity to connect with each other and to connect with all y'all too. And so we would appreciate any feedback, any thoughts y'all have. Jen, any last words of wisdom, thoughts?
I want to share a comment from Sarah Maxwell that said that when she becomes a grump ass, her family and kids do too.
It is contagious, right?
I love the grump ass. I love it.
Yes. I can't claim that. That actually goes out to Michelle, one of our other music therapy friends who started the Grump Ass on Twitter. And I now, if you haven't seen it, I actually have an official warning alert signal meme that I can use to spread the word when I'm having my Grump Ass days. And it does help to have language around it, right? And I think that's part of even this conversation of being able to have language to say, I'm struggling right now. With whatever that is, whether you're struggling with grief or just feeling grump-assy on a day, or whether you're, just needing to connect, whether you're feeling lonely, to be able to have trusted people that you can share that with, and to be able to maybe make that first move, as we're talking, the gifts of the extrovert, to make that move to connect with someone. And to not be afraid to reach out. It's so important. And we're in Mental Health Awareness Month. And as a clinician, that's where my heart is. I love working with adults with mental health and substance use disorders, and know that our mental health for each one of us is critical right now. And so we hope that you will really embrace who you are, that you will be mindful of what you need right now and not be afraid to reach out. That's incredibly important. Anything else, Jen?
Nope. I just want to reiterate, please let us know things that you would love to hear us cover. And Sarah Maxwell says, let's do this again. So we will for sure do it again, as we just made sure that you guys all knew this was episode 1 of the Adventures of Jen and Jen. So we both feel like this fills our cup. And so it's fun for us. And so we will definitely be doing this again, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Sounds great. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to head off. Hopefully, Jen, I won't lose you. I think we'll be back on Zoom here in a moment. This is our first try. Last time I accidentally lost the live on Facebook, and I'm still not sure how. So as we continue to learn and grow together, thank you for joining us and being a part of the Adventures of Jen and Jen today. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you. All right, bye. Yay!
Yay. I think we're off the live stream. Oh, that was so fabulous.
I think so too. So Sarah Maxwell also says that she thinks that we should start. Oh my gosh, the cover picture is me taking a drink of my water. So the picture on my phone. So I look ridiculous.
Oh, I love how it does that.
Yeah, I think that went really well. Me too. But yeah, so so I had always actually thought about when Rachel Ramback had her introverted group, I thought about creating a music therapy extrovert group. And so, and Sarah Maxwell just asked if we would do that because I think that she brings up a lot of good points and stuff. And I still think that there's so many things that we could talk about. Like, for instance, one of the things that just came to my mind with that is thinking about shy extroverts, you know, and what that looks like. And so I think there's hundreds of things that we could still talk about. And I think even as we continue with this, I think that there's just so much in terms of self-care and gratitude and grace and everything. So
yeah, I am in.
Yay. Yeah, I am too. I mean, I just absolutely love this. I think this was exactly what I needed today. And so I appreciate you being you and that I could spend some time with you.
Yeah, ditto. I appreciate you and our friendship. And being able to take it on the road and have this conversation, because these are the conversations I love to have. Like, they really are the important ones to me. And I think that I just think it's so important that people don't feel alone. And so if there are people that can listen to bits and pieces of these and go like, oh, other people are feeling this too, and I'm not alone with this. That's really important. And know that I'm just going to be continuing to hold your family in my thoughts and prayers. My last grandma hung on for a while, and it was really hard. I was there in person for that. So I just, my heart feels for you with that, because
I feel like every day I feel like it's the day. It's the day. It's the day. And it's like, it hurts so much to like think about all the struggles that she's feeling and all the pain that she's, going through. Like, she's doing this thing right now where she's like coughing, and when she's like coughing, it's like her whole body like jolts and her eyes open, and it's like you can just see the discomfort. And it's so painful to see. And it's like, I want to unsee those things. And that's not the way I want to remember her. And so I think I'm going to go up there and see her today, because I don't want to live with regret of not. I'm just
going to stop recording. We'll remember to cut off the end of this.